Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football, continuing with our 2022 season previews as we take a look at the Miami Hurricanes. Was supposed to do them a little bit later on in the offseason. However, after all the excitement, the recruits that they've hit, I'm excited about this program. I wanted to talk about this program. I'm sure the fans are excited. So I'm excited to take a little look at the Miami football team heading into 2022. Before we get into it, just wanted to say thank you guys for the support you guys have shown the channel. It's just really fun to talk with you guys about all your teams. I learned from you guys, so let me know in the comment section some players that I'm missing out on. We appreciate all the support. It's just been a blast talking football with you guys. So if you guys do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's start talking some Miami football. So Mario Cristobal comes in. I think this was probably the best hire in the offseason. Mario Cristobal, a proven head coach at Oregon. I think the biggest thing Mario Cristobal is going to come and bring into this team is the recruiting. He is a top 10 recruiter in the country, maybe one of the best recruiters in the country. Combine that with the new NIL style of recruiting in Miami. They seem to be doing a phenomenal job attracting talent. You just saw Jaden Rashada commit last night. This team is trending in the right direction. They have great recruits in their program and coming into their program. And there's just a lot of optimism from me and I think from a lot of the fans that I'm following on Twitter about this program heading into 2022 and the future. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. Tyler Van Dyke took over middle of the last season and just absolutely took the ACC by storm. Been seeing him a bunch in the top 10 in 2023 NFL mock drafts, and I'm about it. I mean, he needs to put together another season for sure, but the talent's there. I mean, some of the throws you see this kid make, it's just special. That's no other way to put it. And you know he's going to be good. I mean, 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, 62% completion percentage in a season that he wasn't even supposed to play. I mean, he knew he'd be the backup to De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King goes down, and Tyler Van Dyke just did a phenomenal job getting thrown into the fire and making it happen. Now, what I want to get to, you have Josh Gattis come in. I want to talk a little bit about the pass catchers. I think Josh Gattis and his scheme will work a lot better at Miami than it did at Michigan. I'm a Michigan fan, so I kind of can speak from experience here. There seemed to be a lot of tension between what Jim Harbaugh wanted to do and Josh Gattis. Josh Gattis comes in from Alabama, and all you're hearing for the offseason is speed and space. We're going to get our best players in space and let them make plays. And you just didn't see that through the first 2 seasons that Josh Gattis was there. And I think largely because Jim kind of is married to what he did at Stanford with that 12 personnel, 2 tight end formations. They want to run the ball. And there was just some tension between those two and what they wanted the offense to look like. And I think that's what led to Josh Gattis moving to Miami, where he's going to have more control of the offense. And quite frankly, the personnel that Miami gets and what they recruit is probably better fit to what he wants to run because Miami has the speed. They have the athletes on the perimeter, and I think this is really going to work out well. Now, I bring up the wide receivers because that's probably where I have the most amount of question marks. Tyler Van Dyke's awesome, but I think over 50% of his targets went to Charleston Rambo and Mike Harley. Rambo, a guy that I was extremely excited for coming into Miami last year as a transfer from OU. Took him a little bit to take hold, but once Tyler Van Dyke started playing football for them, that duo between Rambo and Van Dyke was really special, and they'll certainly miss Rambo. They'll miss Mike Harley. D. Wiggins transfers to Louisville. I just have a question about who's going to step up on that side of the ball or in that position group, the wide receiver position group. Now, there's a couple of guys that excite me. Frank Ladson comes over from Clemson, 6'4", 210 pounds. He can go vertically really well, but I think that's might be kind of pigeonholed into that kind of route running for Frank Ladson. But you have some other guys. Xavier Restrepo, I think, is going to be really, really good in the slot. And having a guy that's consistently open in the middle of the field who can create after the catch is going to be big. I expect Xavier Restrepo to kind of take a step forward. Keyshawn Smith, solid. But a guy that I'm really excited about, and the beat writers that I'm following, allergies getting me a little bit, is Jacoby George. Jacoby George is a guy that I don't know much about because he hasn't played too much football for Miami. He's a young kid. But everybody in that program seems to love him. And I'm excited for what he can potentially bring to the table because They kind of need a guy to step up on the outside with Rambo and Mike Harley leaving. Jacoby George seems to be a good candidate. Frank Ladson, a good candidate. And then Xavier Restrepo will be a solid slot guy. And then the tight ends. Will Mallory, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the country. Then you get a guy like Elijah Arroyo, who I've been hearing really good things about. Played in the spring game, looked solid when Will Mallory was not playing due to injury. Josh Gattis, they did use those 2 tight end sets at Michigan. I wonder if that comes out into Miami a little bit. The pass catcher unit, it has some guys they just need to step up. Now, another unit that has some guys, and they've already been a proven commodity at the college football level, is the running back unit. Jalen Knighton is one of the most electric players in the country. Whenever he touches the ball, you're holding your breath. I love the nickname the Rooster. Whenever I watched Miami, I kind of wanted him to get more touches. Cameron Harris, the last 2 years, was getting a lot of touches. Jalen Knighton, he's really special. And when you have a guy who can hit a home run from pretty much anywhere on the field, that's really good for an offense. I expect Jalen Knighton, and he's a guy that him and Henry Parrish to transfer from Ole Miss, electric guys in space, and that's what Josh Gattis is going to try to do. A lot of the running game for Miami last year seemed to be the kind of simple zone reads. Josh Gattis is going to bring, they had the best rushing attack in the country at Michigan last year. I expect Josh Gattis to kind of bring a little bit more of an emphasis on the run game, but not just the simple runs, but creative runs that are going to get those players in space. Because Parrish, Jalen Knighton are really good. Don't even forget about Donald Chaney. And then another guy like Thad Franklin, who look awesome in the spring game. They go 4 or 5 guys deep who are capable ball carriers for this team. And that's what you want, especially when a couple of the guys are undersized. But this unit is very good. And they're going to be running behind an offensive line that I think has all the potential in the world. Zion Nelson was one of my favorite tackles for the 2022 NFL draft. So last year at this time, I thought he was going to be a first-round tackle. Phenomenal athlete. I just think he needed to progress a little bit more. Didn't take the steps I thought he would take, but there's no other guy I'd want mentoring a young, talented offensive line than Mario Cristobal. He's going to do a phenomenal job. Zion Nelson is awesome. I love at the right tackle spot, DJ Scaife. I think I said his name right. He was really good for Miami. And then they bring in 2 transfers from Oregon who Mario Cristobal wouldn't have brought with him if he didn't like him. So you got some guys that are really good. But again, Zion Nelson, I think, has the potential to be one of the best tackles in the country. He just needs to put it together. And I think Mario Cristobal will help make that happen. So offense is going to be good. The defense probably has a little bit more question marks, but they also doing some prep work. They are loaded at the defensive line. They lose some guys like Nesta Silvera going to Arizona State. Jonathan Ford, who's kind of been there for a while. Probably not the most special player, but solid. Zach McLeod, a guy who I believe transitioned to linebacker, from linebacker to defensive line. They are loaded with guys on the defensive line who haven't necessarily proven themselves, but they are extremely talented. And we got to start with Leonard Williams, a guy who was a top 10 recruit in 2021. Leonard Taylor is a stud. When I watched him play last year, he only played in 6 games last year, registered 8.5 tackles for loss. He is a force, and it is very, very rare to see a guy who is 18 years old, a true freshman, be as impressive as Leonard Taylor was. Another guy that I'm very excited about, Jafari Harvey, a guy that I thought maybe would have broken out last year. 7.5 tackles for a loss. I believe he also tagged on 3 sacks last year. He's a guy that I think can take the next step. And then you go to the portal to get some guys that I'm really excited about. Akeem Mesidor, not sure what they'll do, if they'll throw him on the inside or put him out on the edge. But this dude is very, very disruptive. And his time at West Virginia, he registered 8 tackles for loss and 4 sacks last year. He was a former 4-star, very, very high recruit. Mitchell Ajude coming from UCLA, who I liked in summer scouting last year for UCLA. I think they'll find some creative ways for him to get some pressures. He's a little bit more undersized at 240 pounds, but he's a very good athlete, and he's very good at getting after the passer. And then Jacob Lichtenstein coming over from the USC. He's just adding some depth. This defensive line goes 6, 7, 8 deep, and similar to where we're talking about the running backs, they have a lot of guys who could potentially step up and make some noise for this Miami defense. But again, it's going to start with Leonard Taylor. This dude has the chance to be really, really special. You saw the flashes of it as a true freshman, which is rare to even see flashes when you're a true freshman playing the defensive line, but he made that happen. And so I like this defensive line. I like the guys. One other guy, Jared Harrison Hunt. He also looked pretty good. So there's a bunch of guys that you like. Now, the position group that I probably have the most question marks on the defense side of the ball is the linebackers. They're good players. They're just not the most consistent players. I mean, Corey Flagg, Wagnum Smith, I think Keontae Smith, then you get Caleb Johnson transferring from UCLA. Guys like Corey Flagg, I think he can be like an all-ACC linebacker. He just needs to be more consistent. There were a lot of missed tackles and a lot of explosive run plays. Because I was thinking back to 2020, like with that UNC game with Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. Like, this linebacker unit has struggled to tackle consistently. And when you have linebackers who are missing a lot of tackles, those explosive run plays, they kind of take the life out of a defense. It's very hard for a defense to be solid when your linebackers are missing tackles. So that is the key. They have the athletes. They just got to make those tackles. And then in the secondary, it is also kind of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to talent. Now, figuring out where these guys are going to be and where these guys are going to gel, that's another thing. But the talent is there. We got to start with guys like James Williams, Avante Williams, two very, very high recruits. Not really sure what you'll do with those guys. I think James Williams might play like kind of that utility star position where you're kind of a walk-in safety, play a lot in the box, and just let him influence the game because he is an athlete that can make that happen. Then Avante Williams probably playing one of those safety spots. Tyreek Stevenson, the transfer from Georgia, I thought he'd have a better year last year. He's also very, very solid. You have a guy like Al Blades, I believe, is still around. I'm not really sure what he's going to be doing. But again, those are a few guys that they're really talented. You just want to see them kind of come together. And I think a lot of that struggle had to do with James Williams was what? James Williams last year was a true freshman. Avante Williams was second year with the program. Tyreek Stevenson, first year with the program from Georgia. A lot of new faces in that secondary. They're all good players. They just got to come together. And at the secondary position, that unit, that needs to have a lot of chemistry when you're dropping in those zone coverages. You got to be able to give off guys, kind of be able to communicate with your guys around you when you're in dropping in that coverage. And I feel like that's where Miami kind of faltered a little bit. Not necessarily the athletes. In fact, definitely not the athletes because they have the athletes. Now, what we're going to do now to end the preview is just take a look at the schedule. I actually really like the schedule. They do have a tough out-of-conference game, obviously, going on the road to Texas A&M. But other than that, the schedule, I'm not picking them to lose many games. You start your season with Bethune Cookman. That's going to be kind of a layup. You get two layup games. Bethune Cookman, Southern Miss. Those should be games where your new guys get to play a lot. They get comfortable with the new scheme and Josh Gattis, Mario Cristobal. And then you get hit with a ton of bricks. You go on the road to College Station, play the Texas A&M Aggies. Quite frankly, I'm not picking Miami to win that game. That being said, anything can happen. Texas A&M, unlike Miami, who knows who their quarterback is, and they have a stud quarterback, Texas A&M doesn't even know who their quarterback's going to be right now. And so when you have such an advantage at the quarterback spot, anything can happen. But Texas A&M does have a very talented team. It is very hard to play on the road at Texas A&M. But we'll keep an eye on that game. But after that game, say they leave those 3 games going 2-1. There's not many games I'm picking them to lose. Middle Tennessee State, they should win. North Carolina, a lot of question marks. I picked them to win. Va-Tech's a win. Duke's a win. Virginia's a win. Florida State, you should beat Florida State with this Miami team. If Miami's as good as I think they are, they should beat Florida State. Georgia Tech. And then you kind of finish out with your tough games. Clemson on the road. And then Pitt is probably that game that's determining who's going to play for the ACC championship game. Most likely you're going to be playing Clemson. You get them at home. That's going to be a massive game, and that's going to be the swing. And if this is going to be kind of an 8-win season or a 10-win season, it's going to be at Pitt. I'm excited for that game. It's probably the 2 best teams in that division. And it's going to be a good one. This Miami team, my final analysis of this Miami team is it could go either way. This Miami team could be really special and have a season where they go 10-2, maybe 11-1. You just can't let it get off the rails. I feel like last year they just lost those games that they need to be winning. You look at some of those close games last year. North Carolina lose by 3. Florida State, they definitely should have lost that one. They lost by 3. Lose by 2 to Virginia, I believe, on a missed field goal. I mean, these are games that you win those 3 games, you go 10-2. And the narrative of that season is way different. Manny Diaz might keep his job. That'll do it for our Miami football 2022 season preview. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out. It's been a blast. And hey, let me know in the comment section which players I need to keep an eye on. I'm doing this to learn more about these teams as we head into 2022. I appreciate you guys checking us out. If you guys do like the content, come join the community, subscribe to the channel. Again, it's been a blast talking with you guys in the comment section. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.